Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Box Office Talk. This is the show where I break down what happened at the box office, see if my predictions for the top 5 are correct, then make predictions for next week's top 5. So let's get right on into it. Last week I predicted that number 1 would be Avatar: The Way of Water, number 2 would be M3GAN, number 3 would be Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, number 4 would be Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, and number 5 would be I Wanna Dance with Somebody. And I only got 3 out of 5 of my predictions right for this weekend. If you can probably tell by the thumbnail, which is what you're staring at right now, a movie that I thought was only going wide next weekend because it had been in some limited theaters beforehand. You know, it actually expanded just a wee bit into some theaters, enough to actually make it into the top 5. So that threw me off completely. That's why I didn't get my predictions right. One person managed to figure this pretty early on. So congratulations to you. Here's your shout out. Not sure how you managed to think of that. Because literally I didn't even know it was playing at a theater near me until like a couple days ago. I thought I was going to have to wait till next week, but then I checked the showtimes again because I'm always obsessively checking showtimes, and I was like, holy shit, it's actually playing right now. So kind of okay, we'll get to it when we get to it. Let's go over what happened at the overall top 10. Number 1 was once again Avatar: The Way of Water. Now the last 2 weekends, 60 million, and then on the other one it barely even dropped. In fact, it even made a little bit more once the final numbers were all coming in. So this weekend it did not have the same luck of dropping 0%, but you know, that would be an incredibly rare thing to do, you know, 3 weekends in a row. But it only dropped, you know, from 60 million to like $45 million for this weekend. So that is pretty good and still holding very strong. We'll get into the rest of the info in a bit. That adds to a domestic total of 516 million. Worldwide, it is sitting at $1,708 million. And James Cameron, a couple days ago, an article came out where he said, it's official. This movie is profitable. I'm committing to the sequels. They're going to be coming out. We're going to be making 4 and 5 and, you know, 6 and beyond, whatever. Or maybe not 6 and maybe just 4 and 5 at this point, or at least finishing 4 and then seeing how they go. I don't know. We'll see what he means fully as the years go on, obviously, but this is just very exciting news. I'm glad that, because he was talking up about how, you know, 4 got no notes from the studio when I handed in the script. It's something I really want to do. Now that we've got the intro movies out of the way, we're going to get into the nitty gritty of this stuff. These sequels are going to be even better, and you know, that's got me pretty hyped. If that movie was going to end up being the final one because this one didn't do that well, I would have been a little bit bummed, as you know, because Cameron, you know, he's a good salesman. He's a really good hype man for his own work. So I am very excited to see that, you know, this movie has crossed over multiple points in the charts. That proved that this movie has an audience. It's making a cultural impact, goddammit. and, you know, people will want to see more. So let's go over some of the stuff that it has outgrossed all the other numbers that it is listed at domestically. It is 269 million, still away from the original film, but for James Cameron's other movie, Titanic, it needs 143 million until it gets there. And considering how great these holds have been the last couple weekends, I would say that, you know, Titanic has a pretty strong shot at being outgrossed here. You know, the first Avatar, you know, we'll see a little bit more as we get closer, but you know, Titanic might be in the path of Way of Water right now. As far as the year 2022, it is now the second highest grossing film domestically, outgrossing Wakanda Forever by 71 million, and now it needs 202 million until it outgrosses Top Gun Maverick. It is also the number 16th highest grossing film domestically of all time. So not just this year, of all time, outgrossing Rise of Skywalker recently by 1 million, and it needs 17 million until it outgrosses Rogue One. So obviously next weekend it'll pass that movie. Worldwide, it needs 1,191 million until it outgrosses first Avatar, and for Titanic it needs 499 million. So that one as well. You know, first Avatar, give it some time. That movie also had the benefit of being re-released over the years, and that, you know, total adds up. But Titanic, it is kind of, you know, 499 million kind of in the way at this point. You know, that's the same domestically and worldwide. For 2022, it is the official highest grossing film of the year. It outgrossed Top Gun Maverick by $221 million. So what I was saying before was just domestic. That's just here in the US. What I'm saying here worldwide, that's US, and everything else, that's international completely. So officially, number 1 movie in the world is Avatar for this year. That is incredible. That is wonderful. I'm sorry, I said this year. It is now 2023. I will correct this. For last year of 2022, for all-time worldwide grosses, it is now number 7, ahead of Jurassic World by 39 million and 202 million away from outgrossing Spider-Man No Way Home, which I think is a pretty safe bet this weekend, maybe even next weekend. It will definitely do that. So that is very exciting to see this movie just continue to rise and rise. But let's move on to number 2, because we've talked about Avatar a lot these past couple weekends. So let's talk about a new exciting entry into the top 10, M3GAN. If you have a problem with me pronouncing Megan as M3GAN, please leave. I was very excited to see how this would do, because there's actually been a pretty strong marketing campaign for this movie, starting off with the trailer release, because it caught some people's eyes, kind of looking pretty funny, actually. You know what I mean? Like, M3GAN actually was looking like, a pretty fun, solid character that people wanted to go see a movie about. More marketing campaign when you have people dressed up as M3GAN dancing, like in New York or at a football game, similar to how Paramount had people smile at like a baseball game ahead of the release of their movie Smile last year. So a lot of people, we're talking on social media, and now the buzz is starting to spread around in the real world outside of Twitter. So this movie this weekend had a $30 million opening on a budget of $12 million. So it has already doubled that budget and is only $6 million away from tripling it. And then you look at the worldwide numbers, it is sitting at $45 million. That's half $100 million worldwide already. But at that point, it has already tripled its budget and needs $3 million until it quadruples that $12 million budget. That is awesome. And I'm really hoping that the meme culture kind of surrounding this movie right now, it doesn't lead to like a big drop off next weekend. I hope that this movie at least has some kind of like staying power, some good word of mouth, similar to Smile or even Barbarian, even Terrifier 2, that will allow it to make even more. And obviously these next couple weeks of January can kind of be hit or miss. It's kind of, it's not a safe bet as far as like what's going to drop off, what's going to make the most money. It's kind of a weird spot where it's like Avatar is kind of like the champ right now, because that's the big blockbuster, but everything else is like, hey, could be anything, it's going to be a while till M. Night shows up, you know what I mean? So I'm really excited to see how this movie lasts, and I hope it does, because from everything that I'm hearing, people have been responding to it very well. Critics on Rotten Tomatoes give, the consensus adds to like a 90%, which is outrageous to think of. But, people who are not critics, just average audience members, have also been enjoying this. The cinema score was like a B, but that's still pretty good, and what matters most is that the people who want to see this movie, who enjoy these kind of movies, will also come out enjoying this. They have been enjoying it as well. Let's go over some stats though. As far as original horror movies, this is the best opening for an original horror film since Nope. It is also the biggest PG-13 horror film opening since A Quiet Place Part 2 in 2021, which is obviously very exciting. It also, if we want to compare a January from last year, Scream opened to about 30 million. So this movie opening with like the same kind of number, and this is technically now an original IP. Scream is still part of a franchise. That's pretty impressive numbers for an original film. And obviously, when I say original, I know there must be someone itching at their keyboard or their keypad on their phone going like, oh, I want to say this is not original because it reminds me of a bunch of other things. When I say original, I mean it's not based off of an existing IP. It's not something that they are licensing out. It may have its influences, but that does not mean that it is not an original new thing that is being birthed into the creative world. So yeah, that's all I wanted to say about that. Let's move on to some of the other like production companies, because you have 2 production companies involved with the making of this, kind of starting out as like a new deal from what I remember, an article a couple weeks back, between Atomic Monster, which is James Wan, and Blumhouse, which is Jason Blum. For Blumhouse, domestically, it outgrossed Happy Death Day 2U's domestic run by $2 million already, and it is $2 million away from outgrossing Paranormal Activity, The Marked Ones, and Unfriended, which is pretty incredible. When you look at the worldwide chart for that $45 million that it made, it outgrossed Oculus by $1 million, the entire worldwide run of Oculus, and is $3 million away from outgrossing Fantasy Island. So that is very impressive already. It's outgrossing all of the lower tier Blumhouse movies already. But that's kind of the thing with Blumhouse, is that you'll have those really big hits, but then you'll have the ones that, hey, maybe it's a sequel to a big hit, but the push wasn't really there for it, so it didn't make as much, so it's on the lower end. And then they also push out some other movies, especially earlier on when they were releasing stuff where it's like, it's not really the biggest thing in the world. So this movie outgrossing some of the lower tier ones, their entire runs, is obviously a good start that this movie will have some good kind of staying power. It'll obviously, probably be a pretty big hallmark for Blumhouse moving forward. They'll probably always want to bring up this in their marketing, like, from the company behind M3GAN. As far as Atomic Monster goes, James Wan's company, it outgrossed the entire run of Malignant domestically by $17 million, which is pretty incredible. That movie had the uphill battle of being released on HBO Max the same day, though, so give or take. But it is $12 million away from outgrossing the entire domestic run of Mortal Kombat, with the new one that James Wan was involved with. And it is also a part of the top 5 highest opening weekends for that company, behind The Nun's $53 million, The Conjuring 2's $40 million, Annabelle's $37 million, and Annabelle Creations $35 million. So very good on all fronts there. It's going to be a hallmark for Blumhouse marketing moving forward, and this will also be, a hallmark for Atomic Monster moving forward. Worldwide, it outgrossed Malignant by $12 million, and it needs $38 million until it outgrosses Mortal Kombat. How crazy is that M3GAN, this new killer doll movie, is going to outgross Mortal Kombat? Once again, Mortal Kombat had the uphill battle of being released same day on HBO Max in early 2021, so, maybe that movie would have had bigger numbers if it was released like this year, for example, but right now, M3GAN is about to whoop its ass. Moving on to number 3, which is Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. This movie made $13 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of $87 million. That is $3 million away from crossing the initial production budget of $90 million, but worldwide, it has already crossed it, it's already doubled it, now sitting at $197 million, $3 million away from a $200 million worldwide total, which is very exciting, very fun. I was very worried because I saw, like, a couple days ago, this movie was already out on digital streaming, and I was like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, this movie is having such a good, like, kind of word of mouth kind of run in the theaters right now. Just give it some more time, and it'll make some more money. Putting it on streaming right now is like shooting yourself not in the foot but in the fucking dick. What are you doing? But I'm so far it's looking like this won't affect the theater run as much. If I'm being honest, I'm not even sure how many people really know that it's out on digital. I'm not really sure. Maybe we'll see next weekend that kind of big drop because of that, but right now it's doing okay. Like I said, it just doubled its $90 million budget. As far as DreamWorks, let's first look at the domestic numbers real quick. It outgrossed Flushed Away by $23 million, Captain Underpants by $14 million, Penguins of Madagascar by $4 million, and Spirit, the first Spirit movie, by $14 million, and it needs $3 million until it outgrosses Ants, and $10 million until it outgrosses The Bad Guys, which came out earlier in 2022, which it probably will definitely do that at this point, which is very exciting to see. It's exciting to see a DreamWorks animated film still make money. It still needs $62 million until it outgrosses the first movie, and like I said, because it's now on digital, it's kind of hard to guess if it will be able to still outgross it. If it was not on digital, I'd still say, yeah, I think the next couple weeks it'll still be able to carry over, still make some decent money until it gets there, very gradually. But now it's kind of like, well, I think it could go either way, who really knows, but it's still exciting to see it get a little bit closer. Worldwide, the worldwide numbers, it has outgrossed Boss Baby 2 by $31 million, Ants by $45 million, Flushed Away by $18 million, Abominable by $9 million, and it's a couple 100,000 over Wallace and Gromit: Curse of the Were-Rabbit, so that's very exciting too. It is $17 million away from outgrossing Croods 2. It will definitely outgross the next couple films in the DreamWorks ranking, but as far as how much more money could it have made if they didn't immediately put it on digital, that's the thing I'm kind of looking at right now, because it's not just, hey, look, the VOD sales are boosting up as well. It's, hey, this movie is now, on digital streaming in HD, which means someone's going to upload it on like F Movies or like the Pirate Bay, a torrent site. You know what I mean? So that's still a little frustrating that, there will be aspects where people will watch it and not give money to it, which means, this movie could be making a little bit more. That's all I'm really saying here. It's still doing all right. It's still doing a solid job, better than how it opened up. It still needs $357 million until it outgrosses the original worldwide, so not as close domestically, but hey, it's still doing pretty good. That's all I can really ask for at this point. Number 4, A Man Called Otto. What I said before, this movie snuck up on me. Didn't know it was going to be releasing in some, theaters close to me earlier on. That definitely would have changed how I was going to guess this weekend's numbers. Either way, it made $4 million this weekend, so we'll maybe see it a bigger boost when it's actually like in wide release next weekend. But right now, that adds to a worldwide total of $12 million. It's on a budget of $50 million, so it'll still need about 100 in order to double that. And by our standards of just that's all we have to go off of, break even. So we'll see how that goes. This movie might also benefit with like a gradual kind of run. I don't see big awards push. Technically, this is a movie that came out last year because it, limited release in December, but I don't really see this movie getting in the bigger, awards conversation. It hasn't been really, and I don't really see this getting an adapted screenplay nom. I don't see Tom Hanks squeaking in there as much as he might want to. It's a pretty good movie. I will say that I will give an endorsement to it. It is a pretty good movie. So if you do want to go ahead and check that out, please do. It's heartwarming. I would also say check out A Man Called Ove, which is the original film based off of a book called that as well. But, that original film is really, really great as well. And I prefer that over Otto. No offense to Mr. Hanks. It's just, they had it so right the first time, and remaking it just the difference is now it's American, who cares? I can definitely see some like more film enthusiast people also being maybe turned off by that idea. But still, I would still recommend checking it out if you can. I would I just want to see movies be successful, so I would like this movie to double this budget, you know what I mean? It wasn't too long ago where The Woman King had this budget, and it got so close. It was like in the 90s last time I checked, but it still wasn't close to doubling that budget, which is still very sad. Anyways, number 5 was Black Panther Wakanda Forever, making $3 million, adding to a domestic total of $443 million. It is $14 million away from outgrossing Age of Ultron, and worldwide it is sitting at $825 million, so $25 million away from outgrossing Ragnarok. It is about to hit Disney Plus February 1st, if I remember correctly, that date. So this movie's been out for a couple months now. The numbers are also dying down because it's got big competition with all these other new releases at this point. This movie had its time in the spotlight, essentially, but now that Avatar's here, it's kind of like, nope, get out of here, So, this is expected, but definitely at that point, it'll, I think it'll probably just be gone at that point, or, still be playing in some theaters. And either way, this movie's had a pretty fantastic run, and I will not hear otherwise. Let's move on to number 6, which is I Want to Dance with Somebody, making $2 million, adding to a domestic total of $19 million. It still needs about $24 million until it outgrosses the director's previous film, Harriet. But worldwide, this movie got a slight boost. Still not enough of a boost to double that $45 million budget, but right now it is sitting at $41 million for its worldwide total, which is $3 million away from outgrossing Harriet, the director's previous film. So that must feel pretty good, at least for that director. I hope that she is able to direct more films. I was not personally a big fan of this. I know I haven't reviewed this. There's a lot of fucking movies I haven't reviewed. But I wasn't really a big fan of this, and I might have shit-talked the writer just because he was involved with the terrible Bohemian Rhapsody a couple years ago. But I would still like the director to be able to, work with something that they're very passionate about. If I'm not trying to make an assumption, but just watching the movie, it just felt like, someone wanted to celebrate Whitney Houston, and it just, got boiled down to the basics, and there was just nothing left really for me to get emotionally connected to. Sorry, this turned into a review show. This is supposed to be a box office show. Sorry about that, everyone. Let's move on to number 7, which is The Whale. We actually have a budget for this movie now, so on Wikipedia, last time I checked, the budget is now listed at $3 million, so it made $1.5 million, adding to a domestic total of $8.5 million, so $0.5 million away from tripling that $3 million budget. So there you go. Technically, it is doing pretty okay and well. For Darren Aronofsky, it's outgrossed Pi and Requiem for a Dream by $5 million, and now it needs $2 million until it outgrosses The Fountain, which I think we will be seeing happen at least next weekend or the weekend after. Still, pretty good, small, modest hit that I don't really have more to offer. So let's move on to number 8, which is Babylon. Not a hit, sorry, making $1.4 million, adding to a domestic total of $13 million. And hey, this may be the biggest box office bomb of the town right now, but at least it outgrossed Damien Chazelle's Whiplash by a couple 100,000 this weekend. Not really a big achievement, and I think Whiplash is kind of more adored than Babylon will be, so that kind of sucks as well, but And at this point, it needs 31 million until it outgrosses First Man. So you can't say that this is like Damien Chazelle's highest grossing film either. You know, he hasn't just been making indie. You know, it's First Man next, and then La La Land, which, you know, yeah, pretty popular. I wish that popularity translated to people buying tickets to see this and not writing it off as pretentious right away. Like actually going to see it first instead of just listening to what some rando said online, or maybe just seeing like a snippet of what they said online and just going like, oh, I don't want to see that. Oh, it's 3 hours? Ugh, my my attention span. Womp womp. Anyways, let's move on to number 9, which is Violent Night, making $740,000, adding to a domestic total of $49 million. Worldwide, it is sitting at $75 million. I don't think we will be seeing this movie next weekend, but hey, it had a pretty solid run, and even though it wasn't able to get close to outgrossing Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunter, I think this movie is gonna rest easy knowing that it is a much better movie and got a much better reception than Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters. I think there was even some talk of like, hey, we've had some talks and some mentions of maybe doing another one, so if that's not exciting, then I don't know what is. Let's close out the video with number 10, The Menu, making $713,000, adding to a domestic total of $37 million worldwide. It is sitting at $68 million. It is now available on HBO Max. This movie's been out in theaters for a while, so I guess it's probably not playing in a lot of theaters right now. I would recommend, like, hey, just if while you still can, go to the theaters, but at this point it's kind of like, well, probably isn't playing in theaters for a lot of people, but you know, people have HBO Max, some people have HBO Max, so if you want to go check it out there, I would highly recommend it. It needs your support. I would love to see it, you know, get high streaming numbers, high rental numbers, in addition to a pretty solid hit of doubling this $30 million budget. Now it's time for the fun part, the predictions for next week's top 5. This is going to be interesting because, you know, A Man Called Otto is expanding a little bit, and then you've got 2 new releases in House Party and Plane. I'm going to predict that number 1 is once again Avatar: The Way of Water, number 2 is once again M3GAN, and then number 3 I am going to say A Man Called Otto will be able to expand enough to outgross my number 4 pick, which is Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, and then number 5 I think will be Plane. I think Gerard Butler, there are some people that still go see his movies and still want to give him support, and it is an action thriller. And as far as House Party is concerned, I don't think there's as much of a drive for people to go see it. Like, the House Party franchise isn't really like a big box office, you know, earner or anything like that. I mean, I wish them the best, you know, I would love it to be successful. I would love for every movie to be successful, you know what I mean? You know, save for a select few, but that's besides the point. But I don't think there's really even that much talk or excitement about this new one. I'm not sure how many people even know it's about to come out next weekend as opposed to like a couple weekends from now. So I don't think it's going to crack the top 5, but Gerard Butler, you got a shot. Anyways, what are your predictions for next week's top 5? Leave them in the comments below. And as always, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe. I'm Jackson Fulcher. See you guys next time.